8 hours. 92 enemies. 1 soldier. 0 reinforcements. They found her at dawn sitting in the center of what used to be a battlefield. Alone. Silent. Her rifle still warm in her hands. The enemy. Gone. All of them. No backup had arrived. No reinforcements had come. Just her. And a story no one could explain. Until they looked closer and realized everything they thought they knew about warfare was wrong. They called her Crybaby. By sunrise, they'd call her something else entirely. Before we begin, tell us where are you watching from, and if you believe honor and courage still matter, help keep their legacy alive. 8 hours, 92 enemies, 1 soldier, 0 reinforcements. They called her Crybaby. By sunrise, they'd call her something else entirely. The radio crackled before dawn. Sergeant Delaney, KIA. Noa Whitaker froze mid-motion, a cloth still in her hand. The man who'd taught her how to clear a rifle blindfolded was gone. Her throat tightened, but she stayed still, the static fading into silence. Behind her, laughter. Crybaby's at it again, someone muttered. Another voice snorted. She'll tear up over the coffee machine next. Noa didn't turn around. She simply finished cleaning her weapon, then walked to the range. 15 rounds, 15 hits, 75 meters. No hesitation, no breath wasted. The target disintegrated under precise fire. When she lowered the carbine, the other soldiers had already left. No applause. No one saw the paper shredded to dust. All they'd remember were her tears. While they slept, she studied. While they joked, she planned. While they doubted her heart, she weaponized it. 3 weeks earlier, she'd begun to notice small things, the kind no one logged in reports. Birds had stopped nesting near the North Ridge. Patrols returned pale and silent, eyes wide like they'd left something behind out there. Even the wind carried a different sound, metal scraping against rock at 3 in the morning. Noa mapped it all in a notebook. Not terrain, not troop movement, emotion. She charted where fear rose, where confidence cracked, where silence lingered too long. Lines crossed like veins, red and black ink converging over a section marked Ashwash Pass. It wasn't just a map. It was a feeling drawn in ink. She called it her empathy grid, a diagram of how soldiers would react before they even knew they were reacting. One night, Staff Sergeant Ward had found her sitting on the mess hall steps, sketching by flashlight. He crouched beside her without speaking, scanning the page. After a moment, he pointed to a corner. "You missed a crosswind channel here?" He murmured, then stood up and walked away. He never mentioned it again, but Noa remembered. He'd seen it too, he just didn't know what he was seeing. The next morning, she woke to an alert tone that sent a tremor through the entire base. "Attention all personnel. Enemy movement detected. Increased activity along the northern ridge. Estimated window, 72 hours. Outside, soldiers hurried through the compound, muttering about drills, stacking crates, checking comms. But Noa didn't move. Her gut turned cold. That was the same ridge she'd marked 3 weeks earlier. The one where even birds refused to land. She sprinted to her quarters, grabbed her notebook, and flipped to the page with the grid. The pattern glared back at her. The ridge, the funnel, every movement pointed toward one conclusion. An ambush designed to herd their units into the narrow corridor of Ashwash Pass. A perfect kill funnel. She didn't hesitate. Helmet on. Notebook in hand, she went straight to the command post. Major Cole Thatcher was inside, arms crossed, issuing orders to 2 lieutenants. He glanced up when she entered, brow furrowed. "Whitaker, make it quick." "Sir, we're being led into a trap," she said, steady but urgent. "Ashwash Pass, it's the lowest ground, perfect crossfire setup. If they attack from the North Ridge, they'll force our retreat south." Thatcher blinked slowly. "And where exactly did you get that intel?" "From observation," she replied. "From patterns. I've been tracking movement for weeks." He exhaled sharply, cutting her off. "Patterns? Your logistics. Not recon, not command. Stay in your lane, Whitaker." Her pulse pounded in her ears. "Sir, if I'm right." "That's an order," Thatcher snapped, turning back to his maps. "We'll handle it." The word lane echoed in her mind long after she'd stepped out of the room. Lane, box, label. All different words for the same wall she'd been trying to climb since day one. Outside, the desert wind carried the low groan of metal again, somewhere beyond the hills, the sound of something shifting. Preparing. She felt it deep in her chest. Noa stood on the empty walkway, the base lights flickering against her armor. The others passed by, too busy to notice her stillness. She looked toward the north ridge, where the horizon glowed faintly red. "They won't listen," she whispered. Then, she closed her notebook, slipped it into her pack, and tightened the strap across her chest. "If they won't listen." A soft rumble rolled through the ground beneath her boots, distant, but real. "Then I'll be ready." The first mortar hit at 0642. The blast ripped through the western wall, shaking the compound like thunder underfoot. Windows shattered. Sandbags burst. The morning turned gray with smoke. Noa Whitaker hit the dirt behind a stack of crates. Her ears rang, heartbeat pounding louder than the sirens that followed. When she looked up, fire rolled through the motor pool, trucks twisted in the blast, rifles scattered across the gravel. She grabbed her rifle, chambered around, and sprinted through the chaos. The air tasted like dust and fuel. Around her, soldiers shouted orders, half panic, half instinct. Inside the command post, voices overlapped in a storm. Major Thatcher stood over a map table, shouting above the static. "Evac protocol, Charlie. Move non-combatants south. Alpha and Delta cover the pass." Noa burst through the doorway, chest heaving. "Sir, you can't send them south. It's a funnel." Thatcher didn't even look up. "Not now, Whitaker. They're herding us into the corridor," she pushed. "You'll be walking them straight into a kill zone." He turned, face tight. "Unless you've got drone footage to back it, you're guessing." "I'm reading the pattern," she shot back. "Every move they've made points to it." Before he could answer, the side door slammed open. Sergeant Ward stumbled inside, blood soaking his shoulder. "They breached the east gate," he gasped. 20, maybe 30, moving fast." Noa caught him before he collapsed. His hand gripped her sleeve, slick with blood. "You were right," he rasped. "Should have said something sooner." Then he was pulled away by medics, disappearing into the haze of the hall. The room went silent for a moment. Even the radio chatter seemed to fade. Noa turned back to Thatcher. "Sir," she said quietly. "I'll stay." Thatcher frowned. "What?" "I'll hold the base. Reinforcements, ETA, 6 hours 40. I'll buy you that time." He stared at her like she'd lost her mind. "You can't stop 90 men alone." "I don't plan to stop them," she replied. "I plan to make them believe they're already losing." For a long moment, Thatcher said nothing. Then, slowly, he stepped aside. No salute. No order. Just permission. Outside, the ground quaked with another blast. A supply truck went up in flames, sending a column of smoke over the ridge. Noa slung her rifle, tightened her vest, and ran for the northern tower. By the time she reached it, the sun had barely cleared the horizon. Through the scope, she could see dark figures spreading along the ridge, disciplined, spaced, advancing with purpose. Not raiders, not amateurs. She ducked back into cover, pulled her pack open, and laid out her tools. 9 firing positions, each prepped with water, ammo, and decoy signs of life. Empty energy drink cans, boot prints in different sizes, a half-eaten ration bar, then the tech. Speakers wired to old comm units, each looping a different voice. "Alpha flank right. Bravo, cover the ridge. Sniper team, hold fire until my mark." She'd recorded them weeks ago, using a cheap voice modulator she'd smuggled from the supply depot. Now they would echo across the valley like a full platoon's worth of chatter. From her first perch, Noa took aim. Through the crosshairs, the world narrowed into motion, and sound shadows on the ridge, flashes of metal, shapes moving between rocks. She fired once. The lead scout dropped. The second wave paused, uncertain. Then came the return fire, wild, scattered, uncertain of her position. Exactly what she wanted. She relocated. 10 seconds later, another shot cracked from the west bunker. Different rhythm, different echo. The illusion had begun. For the next hour, Iron Hollow became a ghost city. Muzzle flashes flickered from random corners. Radios spat false commands. Footprints appeared and vanished across sandbags. Noa kept moving, never staying more than 2 minutes in one spot. The enemy probed forward, testing, falling back, trying to read chaos that didn't exist. Each minute they hesitated was another life saved on the retreating convoy. Between bursts of gunfire, she caught her breath against a concrete wall. Sweat dripped into her eyes. The heat from the blasts radiated like a fever through her gear. She checked her watch 2 hours since the first mortar. She had to last 6 more. Her muscles trembled, but her focus sharpened. From the ridge, enemy voices carried through the static. Still no visual. Hearing multiple shooters. Unknown strength. She almost smiled. Down below, the last evac convoy rolled out, Thatcher at the lead, Ward bandaged in the back of a truck. The roar of engines faded into distance, leaving only wind and gunfire. For the first time since dawn, Iron Hollow was silent again. Just Noa and the echo of her own plan. She glanced at her map, fingers tracing red ink lines that intersected over the pass. 92 of you, she murmured. 1 of me. Hey. She pulled another magazine from her belt. A faint smirk touched her lips. Let's see who runs out of bullets first. Hour 3. Noa Whitaker crouched behind the northern barricade, sweat streaking through the dust on her face. Her hands moved on, instinct reload, reposition, breathe. Each shot came from a new angle, each echo calculated to mislead. Through her scope, the ridge flickered with muzzle flashes. She'd counted at least 80 hostiles now, split into small teams, but their movements were uneven, uncertain. They believed they were surrounded. The deception worked better than she'd imagined. 10 firing stations, 10 different rhythms, slow pairs, sharp bursts, wild volleys. Every shot told a different story. A different ghost soldier. Iron Hollow had become a stage, and she was the only actor. By hour 4, the enemy adjusted. They stopped firing wildly and began to probe in silence, advancing with discipline. Their spotters swept the ridge with infrared scopes, searching for heat signatures. Noa ducked beneath a cracked wall, her heart hammering against her vest. Her comms picked up faint chatter not from her frequency, but theirs. Foxtrot led. Analysis confirmed single shooter. Rotating positions. Decoy audio. Her blood ran cold. They'd figured it out. A commander on the ridge had pieced the puzzle together faster than expected. For a split second, panic pressed against her chest. One mistake, and it would all collapse. Then she exhaled, steadying her mind. Noa switched her radio channel and keyed her voice modulator. She deepened her tone, added static, and whispered into the mic. East flank collapsing. Ward bleeding out. Request immediate evac. We're losing ground. She paused, listening. On the enemy line, a voice responded. Copy that, confirmed. They're breaking. Push forward. Perfect. They'd swallowed the bait whole. Greed was always louder than reason. From her crawl space position beneath the central yard, she watched them surge downhill. 30 of them, maybe more, charging through the smoke. They moved in tight formation fast, confident, reckless. She triggered the pulley. A dummy silhouette, just a uniform stuffed with sandbags, jerked upright against the haze. Instantly, the attackers opened fire, lighting up the false target. Their muzzle flashes painted the smoke red. Noa smiled faintly and took the shot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each squeeze of the trigger dropped another man before the rest realized what was happening. The ridge erupted into chaos. Snipers. Multiple snipers. Someone screamed in Arabic-accented English. Noa ducked behind cover, changing positions as bullets ripped through the wall above her head. They weren't fighting an army, they were fighting their own fear. She sprinted to the next station, boots skidding across debris. The air was thick with grit and echoes. Every explosion blurred into one continuous roar. Her rifle barrel smoked hot. She pulled the bolt back, swapped mags, and pressed on. She could feel exhaustion clawing at her muscles, but she ignored it. Hour 5 bled into 6. Her fingers were raw from reloads. Her throat burned from smoke and shouting fake commands through the radio. Then click. The rifle jammed. Her stomach dropped. She slammed the buttstock against the ground, tapped the magazine, racked the bolt. Nothing. Footsteps echoed in the corridor behind her. Close. Fast. She dropped the rifle and drew her sidearm in one fluid motion. A shadow filled the doorway. She fired twice, center mass. The figure fell hard, his weapon clattering across the floor. She didn't pause to look, didn't think, just moved. Muscle memory kept her alive. She grabbed a spare mag, reloaded the rifle, and climbed into a new nest above the depot. Her breath came ragged but steady. Outside, the wind shifted. The air pressure dropped. Through her earpiece came faint enemy chatter again. Air support inbound. Repeat, they've got air support coming. Her lips curled into a grim smile. She'd faked that transmission 20 minutes earlier and they'd believed it. Below, confusion erupted. Groups broke formation, dragging wounded, arguing over retreat orders. She could see the panic spread like fire. Noa keyed her mic once more. Alpha flank secure. Bravo advancing. Hold the line. Her voice echoed across the loudspeakers she'd planted around the base. From the ridge, it must have sounded like command had returned, like reinforcements were already inside the wire. The illusion was complete. Minutes later, the enemy began to withdraw. First 5, then 15, then the rest leaving behind weapons, supplies, and silence. The field that had burned all morning now lay still. Noa sank to her knees beside the sandbags. Her rifle slipped from her grip, clattering to the dirt. Her lungs heaved, every muscle shaking. For the first time in 8 hours, she whispered, voice barely audible, "I can breathe." Her eyes stung, and a single tear traced down her soot-streaked cheek. Not fear, not weakness, relief. She raised the radio one last time. "Iron Hollow, secure." Static answered her. Then quiet. "Defender count. 1. By the time the Blackhawks appeared, Iron Hollow was smoke and silence. Ash drifted through the air like gray snow. Every corner of the base glimmered with shell casings catching sunlight. The first helicopter circled low, rotor wash, scattering dust and paper. Noa Whitaker sat slumped against a wall near the central yard, her rifle across her lap. Her head tilted slightly as if listening to something far away, a sound only she could hear. When the skids touched down, soldiers poured out medics, recon teams, security. They fanned across the courtyard, checking corners, searching for survivors. But there was only one. A medic stopped mid-step. "Sir," he whispered into his comms, "we found someone." Major Cole Thatcher stepped off the Osprey, helmet under one arm, eyes scanning the ruins. Bodies covered in tarps, walls torn open by fire. And amid it all, a single figure sitting in the dust, motionless but alive. He approached slowly, boots crunching on gravel. Noa looked up, her eyes half hidden beneath a smear of soot. She didn't stand. She didn't salute. For a moment, no one spoke. Even the medics froze, sensing something sacred in the stillness. Then Thatcher stopped 3 feet away and removed his helmet. "I was wrong," he said quietly. Noah's voice was barely above a whisper. "It's all right, sir. As long as you're listening now." He nodded once, eyes lowering to the rifle still warm in her hands. Behind him, a soldier murmured to another, voice trembling, "She's the one who held it." No applause followed, just a silence thick enough to feel. When they lifted her onto the stretcher, she didn't resist. Her body was trembling, but her gaze stayed fixed on the ridge beyond the base. Even now, she seemed to be calculating, listening for echoes that had already faded. 6 months later, Fort Huachuca Tactical School, Arizona. Lecture Hall 3 was full. Rows of cadets sat stiff-backed in silence as Noa Whitaker walked to the podium. Her hair was shorter now, her uniform crisp. On the table before her lay a single weathered notebook, the one stained with dirt, sweat, and dried blood. She opened it slowly, its pages filled with looping lines and coded marks. "They called me Crybaby," she began, "because I cried when soldiers died, because I felt too much." Her voice was calm, low, almost tender. What they didn't understand. She looked up, scanning the faces of the young officers. Is that empathy isn't weakness. It's intelligence. It's awareness. It's how you survive. On the screen behind her, a projected map glowed faint blue, her grid, rebuilt digitally. It showed Iron Hollow's ridges, movement lines, and emotional topography. Every circle and arrow represented hesitation, fear, or overconfidence. "I didn't just see the battlefield," she said. "I felt it. I tracked morale the same way others tracked wind direction. And that's how I stayed alive." A hand rose from the back row. "Ma'am," a cadet asked, "what made you stay when everyone else doubted you?" Noa paused, her fingers resting on the notebook's cover. "I almost didn't," she admitted. "I almost burned this notebook. Walked away. Let it all fade." The room was still. Even the projector's hum seemed to hold its breath. She turned the notebook sideways. A single bent rifle casing rolled out from between the pages, clinking softly on the podium. It was the jammed round from that morning, the one that almost ended her fight. "I kept it," she said. Because it reminds me what hesitation costs. Her eyes flicked toward the class again. If you see the truth and stay silent, you become the next blind spot. Juez, no one spoke. The weight of her words hung in the air like smoke after a blast. Even the instructors at the back shifted uncomfortably, knowing they were hearing doctrine change in real time. Noa closed the notebook and exhaled softly. Her final line came like a vow. A cold mind pulls the trigger. A burning heart wins the right fight. Applause started quiet at first, then louder. But she raised a hand, stopping it. This isn't about applause, she said. It's about learning to listen before the shooting starts. When the lecture ended, the cadets filed out silently. Noa stayed behind, standing by the window overlooking the Arizona desert. The sun was setting. Same shade of gold as the morning she'd survived Iron Hollow. Her phone buzzed on the table. No contact name. No number. Just a message. Ashwash wasn't the last. Grid 34.7 degrees north, 111.2 degrees west. They're coming again. And this time, they know about you. She stared at the screen, the faint light reflecting in her eyes. Then she smiled, small, quiet, certain. Page 2, she whispered. The wind outside caught the edge of her notebook, fluttering the last page open. On it, a new map was already half drawn. The story wasn't over. If you enjoyed the story, consider sending a super chat to help bring more stories like this. Now, click on the video on the screen to hear another story that's just as powerful and captivating, with courage, sacrifice, and a choice that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about duty and justice.